Hi everyone, we are going to discuss about a task 1 example for academic writing. Particularly today we are going to discuss a line graph, something like this. So first we need to know a few things regarding the task 1 for academic module. First of all, regardless of the module, you have to write at least 150 words in your task 1. You have to write in paragraphs. You cannot write in points, of course, and also you have to make sure that you are writing according to the question. You are covering all the keywords that are present in the question, and you are writing in a way that shows your skill with vocabulary, grammar, phrases, and the structure and flow of your writing. The example we have today in front of us is a very typical one to start with. Now, as you can see, it says that you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. So obviously, you should spend more time on your task 2, and less time on your task 1 because your task 2 carries more mark. So you should spend around 20 minutes on task 1, but it's not a hard and fast rule. So you can spend a little bit more or a little bit less time on it. The graph we have in front of us today says that the graph below shows information about changes in the birth and death rates in New Zealand between 1901 and 2101. So some of the data are from the past and some of the data are prediction of the future. If you look at the graph here, this is a very interesting graph to start with. So as you can see here, it starts from 1901 and finished on 2101. Then the darker color is showing the birth rate and the lighter color is showing the death. And it's in thousands of values. So 70 is actually mean 70,000, 50 would mean 50,000, 20 would mean 20,000. Now the question asking to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparison where relevant. Write at least 150 words. As I have already mentioned, it is important that you write at least 150 words in your writing task 1. Now, please focus here. Here it says that you need to select and report the main features of this particular line graph, and you have to make comparisons where it is relevant. So you can't just explain the graphs very straightforward way, but you have to make comparison whenever it is necessary. So you need to compare if there is a change or something significant. You need to write that into your report. Now, this is the report writing, so you're not going to write any conclusion here, but you have to write an introduction. You have to describe the whole graph here, and also you should write an overall picture of the graph. The overall is a significant part of your writing task 1 here. The examiner usually expect to see something that describes the graph in a summarizing way, the overall trend of the graph, maybe the maximum or minimum changes, or that, or something that is actually describe the graph in a very nice way in 1 to 2 sentences. But before we start to write, we must make plans on what you're going to write. First of all, we need to make sure that how many paragraphs you're going to write. So obviously there's going to be an introduction paragraph. There are going to be 1 to 2 description paragraph, that will be the body part of the paragraph or the report, and there will be an overall paragraph. So you can write the overall paragraph at the end of everything, or you can write it right after your introduction. Sometime what happens, you can merge the introduction and the overall together and make one paragraph there, but that totally depends on the context and the amount of writing you might have to do based on the graph that is given to you. Now obviously, if it's a real test, you will have this particular graph on a piece of paper in for a paper-based test. For computer-delivered IELTS test, you will see this graph on the computer screen. However, you will be given a piece of paper which contains your logon details for the exam, and you can use that particular piece of paper to describe, to plan and write anything you want. So I will obviously highly suggest you to write and plan ahead of time. And before you start writing, obviously plan everything, plan all the things that you need to write in it, and then you will start to write. Because in this way, your writing, storytelling, and coherence and cohesion will be better. Now, let's think about the plannings we can do with this particular graph. I have already done quite a bit here. So let me show it to you. So as you can see, we'll start with the birth rate here. It started somewhere here at around 20,000, and then it started growing, and then suddenly picked up and picked at around 66,000. And if you looked at the x-axis, you see it's almost 1961. You don't have to be 100% accurate with these measurements, but roughly accurate is good enough. So 66,000 in 1961, and then it dropped a little bit, went up a little bit, then again dropped quite a bit, again went up, and then went down. So this particular thing, we can tell it as a fluctuation. So fluctuated between 65,000 and around 50,000. So in between this particular area, this they started fluctuating. Then another thing is it started dropping after that, and gradually dropped, and it declined slowly towards almost 45,000 by the end of 2101. So this is one important thing that happened to this birth line. The next one to say is the deadline, which is started just a little bit shy of 10,000, and then it started growing, and kept growing, and then suddenly after this particular year, it picked quite sharply and it started going up quite quickly. Not like previously, but it started going up very quickly. And at this point, after some years, it actually overtook the birth rate. So previous to this particular point, the birth was always higher than the death numbers. But after this particular point, things got reversed and the death numbers are now higher than the birth numbers. And it went up, and then it almost got flattened for 40-45 years. So these are the main things that is actually happening here in this particular graph, as you can see. Now we need to plan every bits and pieces that is going to write in this particular writing task 1. So let's discuss about birth rate first. So far, what we have found in case of birth rates is that till present day, which is somewhere here in 2021, the birth rate has been consistently higher. And the birth rate started around 20,000 and peaked at 66,000 in 1961. It fluctuated between 65,000 and 50,000, somewhere here, as we have seen in blue color. And then it declined slowly to around 45,000 birds by the end of the century. Now, in a practical scenario where you're sitting for the IELTS test, make sure that you write these things, these key features or highlighted features on the question booklet or the log-on detail sheet you're going to use to make your plans. You're allowed to write on these things and they will not be evaluated. So you can write in any manner suitable to you. Write as short as possible, but make sure that whatever you're writing will make sense to you once you started writing the actual report. And then you can follow up each and everything. So this is going to help you to uh, write properly. And this is going to be your roadmap of the writing. So once we are done with the birth rate, then we're going to discuss a little bit with the death rate. Now, as we have found in the picture, as we have described already, we can say the death rate started at 10,000 and increased steadily till present day, as you can see. And then it leveled off at 60,000 and dipped slightly in 2101, something like that. I'm talking about the last part. Also, there was a sudden increase between 2021 and 2051. I'm talking about the green part of the graph where it actually suddenly started increasing. We also have to plan the overall, and the overall is going to reflect the whole scenario or the overall picture of the question or the graph that we have in front of us. So a death rate will probably overtake a birth rate in around 2041. As you can see, there is an overtaking point here, and after that point, death rate is actually increasing. So we can also include that point. Large gap between the two levels will be reversed. So there is a large gap between death and birth numbers, which will be reversed after 2041 when death actually overtakes birth numbers, and then the large gap will be reversed again. So I believe this is most of the things that we need to write in our report. So once we are done with the planning, then we can start writing the actual answer. Okay, so we are done with the planning. Now we'll start writing the whole thing. Uh, Harmish and Rutul, can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me, both of you? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, I will continue with the answer and then we can jump into writing task 2 after this. So I have already prepared one answer for you, as you can see here. And the first thing we need to write in the answer is the introduction. The best way to write the introduction is just to paraphrase the question we have in front of us. So if we go back to the question, we can see the question says the graph below gives information about changes in birth and death rates in New Zealand between 1901 and 2101. We just need to paraphrase this particular sentence and then we can just write our introduction here. Here, as you can see, I have just paraphrased the question. The graph shows changes in the birth and death rates in New Zealand since 1901 and forecast trends uh, till trends until 2101. Then we have already prepared the ideas that you're going to write, and we're going to just describe those things one by one. So between 1901 and the present day, the birth rate has been consistently higher than the death rate, as we have planned here in this line. So we're just going to write a proper sentence out of this planning. So you're going to write this one. It stood at 20,000 at the start of this period and increased to a peak of 66,000 in 1961. That was the second line. The next line is fluctuation, and the fourth one is decline slowly. So we need to incorporate these two lines into our answer also. Since the rate has fluctuated between 65 and 50,000 and it is expected to decline slowly around 45,000 deaths by the end of the century. So now we have used a complex sentence to include these two sentences together. So you need to make sure that you are using large complex sentences in your answer, which will increase your score in the grammar range and accuracy part of your writing. This is very important. Now we are going to discuss with death rate. We can start it very nicely with in contrast to the birth rate. So you can start with like in contrast. Then we have to describe the death rate started at 10,000 and increased steadily till the present day. So the death rate started below 10,000 has increased steadily until the present time. The next two things we need to write: the level of at 60,000 and dropping slightly at 2101, and rapid increase between 2021 and 2051. So this increase is expected to be more rapid between 2021 and 2051, and then the rate will probably level off at around 60,000, before dropping slightly in 2101. So we are just describing the graph here and the trend here, as you can see, and we are using a long complex sentence here to describe the things. These are the good practices you need to do while you are writing. So we have already described the birth and death rates. All you need to write is the overall. You can write the overall right after the introduction, or you can write the overall at the end also. Remember, in task one, we do not write any conclusion ever. So overall, you can start with the word overall, obviously. That shows the examiner that this is the overall paragraph that you're writing. So you're saying this opposing trends mean that the death rate will probably overtake the birth rate in around 2041, as we have seen here and planned. And the large gap between the two levels will be reversed in the later part of the century. So we have already planned that one also. That's it. That's more than 150 words, and it's a very good report and should solve the purpose of the question. All the key points have been taken care of. You have described the things that were significant. We have compared where it was relevant, and that's it. That's all it needs to be done for writing task one. Hi there, Geoffrey. Can you hear me? Okay, so now we are going to deal with our writing task 1 question for general training module. Okay, so we have a question here for writing task 1, and this is an informal type letter that you have to write. The letter is actually asking you that you want to sell your television. You think a friend of yours might like to buy it from you. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, explain why you are selling this television. Describe the television. Suggest a date when your friend can come and see it. So just like writing task 1 for academic module, you also have to write at least 150 words here. This is an informal letter, so the tone and the conversation of the letter will not be formal type. It will be quite easygoing one. As you are talking to your friend, we have to make sure that our writing style and the flow of the writing is as realistic as possible. To make that, we first need to plan our letter. We are not going to write any address or any date or any subject at the beginning of the letter. All we need to start with is just dear and the name of your friend. That's it. Now let's think about this question. What are the keywords that are present in the question? The first one is that you want to sell your television. So you think a friend of you might like to buy it. So you're not even sure about it. So you have to offer to your friend that whether he likes to buy it or not. Then you have to explain why you are selling it. Also, you have to describe your product. That's the television. And then at the end of the letter, you have to suggest a date so that your friend can come and see it. And you need to include everything in the letter. Obviously, you're going to write the letter in paragraphs. You have to make sure that there are not many paragraphs there to describe things or not just one single paragraph. So describe your letter in between 3 to 4 paragraphs only. At the start of the letter, just convey some greetings to your friend, and then you say why you are writing this letter, and then describe the things that have been asked in the question. Try to cover all the keywords that are present in the question. Once that is done, then you can write another paragraph saying what you actually want from your friend and what is the agenda and what you are actually looking forward to. And then you finish your letter with just signing off. That's it. So we start planning for our letter now. So because it's an informal letter, we are writing to your friend and the objective of the letter is quite personal. So you can start the letter with hope you are doing well. We are not, this is a very usual way we greet a friend. So you can write it in your letter. So we're planning to make 4 paragraphs in our letter. The first one is what I'm doing nowadays or my condition, something like that. So because I'm writing a letter to my friend, so obviously I want to describe why I'm writing the letter. And before jumping into the real action, we need to actually have some conversation, real normal conversation with our friends. So what I'm doing nowadays or my condition at telling about it and describing it can be a very good start. Then I'm going to tell him that I want to sell my TV. Then I'm going to describe the TV. So I need to include the features or if any problems. So the things that should be included if you want to sell your TV, just like an advertisement. Sure. So there should be the model. Screen size is very important there. And if there is any problem with the TV, you also have to include that. So in a real life scenario, if you're looking into any advertisement posted in internet or Facebook Marketplace, you can see that the things they mention are quite straightforward. Like in case of TV, they will mention the model, the year they buy it, and the screen size, if it has any scratches or not, something like that, and maybe the price also. So you have to make things as realistic as possible here. So you need to give a date and time, obviously, to see the CV. So all these things are going to satisfy the questions that are already asked here. So make sure that you answer according to the question and the keywords are actually satisfied for your let in your letter. Then you just in the letter. So this is the planning, and now if we start to write the letter. Okay, so this is one model answer that we have here. So I give a name to my friend, that is Gary. You can choose any name of your liking, or you can just write XYZ. So hope you are doing well. So you can start the letter like this. Then you say, I'm doing fine, though my life is quite hectic at the moment because, as you know, I am moving abroad and there is so much to do. So as you see, I'm just showing my friend now this particular point about that what I'm currently doing nowadays or my condition. And this is a very good situation that I'm describing my friend that I'm moving abroad and there are a lot of things to do. And obviously, this can be a very good point based on which I can give my friend a reason to sell my TV because I'm moving abroad and I don't need that TV anymore, something like that. Then we need to write that I want to sell my TV. You can start. There are few things that I can't take with me because they are too big. So I am seeing if any of my friends would be interested in buying them. One of the things I do not want to take with me is my television, comma. And I thought you might like to buy it off from for a cheap price. So now at this point, you are actually describing your friend that, okay, this is the point I'm selling my TV, and the reason behind that is I'm moving abroad and I can't take all the things I have with me. Some of them are quite big, just like my TV, and I need to sell that. Now you have to describe your TV and describe its specifications. So it's a 32-inch flat screen TV and it's a Philip model. It has a USB port so that you can just plug it in a thumb drive to watch movies or to listen to music. It has great stereo sound, surround sound. So now you have given the very good positive signs of the TV. So it doesn't have any problem with it. So you're not describing anything. Now, if you want to make it more realistic or something different in your own letter, you can just include that there is a small scratch in your TV behind it, and that's it. Nothing in front, so no one can see it, something like that. So, as you know, I am leaving the country at the end of the month, which is only 2 weeks away. So, now in this part, we are actually describing your friend the date and time to see the TV. We want to make it as real and keep the flow of the writing proper. So, because we are leaving the country and moving abroad, so I'm gonna put a date particularly here. So if you want to see it, it would be best to come 20th or 21st. This will give me time to sell it elsewhere if you are not interested. Okay. I look forward seeing you. Let me know if you can't make it. All the best, John. So this is a very proper way of writing an informal letter. So here you're saying all the best to your friend. That's usually what we do. You're just writing, signing off like John, or you can write your name or ABCXYZ. And this is a very nice way to end the letter. As you can see, there are multiple paragraphs in it. The letter is not written in a single paragraph. There are no date or address written in the written in the letter. You just start with dear Gary, and then you just greet him. Then you say why, what's happening with you. Then describe why you're writing this letter to you, why you want to sell the TV. Describe the TV. You can include few more things here if you want, and then say what you want from him, when you want to come, and what's gonna happen then. And just then finish the letter by looking forward to seeing you, something like that, and then all the best. That's it. That's all the thing you need to write a very nice and compact letter. Okay, so now we are gonna practice some writing task 2. I have a question here ready for you. So this is a reason type of question for writing task 2. In the writing task, you have to complete both tasks, task 1 and task 2. You should spend more time on task 2, obviously, because it carries more marks, double to be honest. And so you should spend double the time you spend on your task 1. So that's around 40 minutes. Here in the question, it is actually saying people attend colleges or universities for many different reasons. For example, so some examples are already written here: new experience, career preparation, increased knowledge, etc. Now the question comes, why do you think people attend colleges or universities? Now this is the question that you have to answer here. You should give reasons for your answer using your own ideas and experience. So you can't just say why you're thinking like that, but also you have to give your explanation to those reasons here. This is a very straightforward type writing task too. You don't have to choose any side. You don't have to pick any agree or disagree like of thing, or you don't need to give your um, opinion on one side. Rather, it is just to show the reasons. So it is actually uh, already granted that people are going to colleges and universities, and there are few reasons for that. Some of them are already written here, so you need to extend these particular reasons in your own writing. So just like any other writing task, we'll plan first about the writing. We'll make sure that we understand what the question is. We will pick the keywords that are present in the question and try to elaborate our answer around those keywords. We'll make sure that we make paragraphs. We have to make sure that we write an introduction and a conclusion. And there will be 2 to 3 more paragraphs which will describe the body part of the essay. So in total, there can be around 4 to 5 paragraphs. The first one will be the introduction. Second and third, and maybe the fourth, depending on the context of your writing, can be the description. And the last one will be the conclusion. It is very important in writing task 2 that you write a conclusion and also an introduction. If you don't have enough time in your final exam, and you have just enough time to write maybe another paragraph, and you can sacrifice maybe some description, but you must write a conclusion is mandatory in your writing task too, as well as the introduction. In the introduction, we usually paraphrase the question that we have and try to give a general view of our writing, that what's gonna you're gonna see as a reader, and then we start the actual description. In conclusion, we summarize what we have written and then just give our own point of view on it. But before anything, first thing first, we need to find and find the keywords that are present in the question and understand the question properly. Okay, so this is the question in front of us, and the yellow lines are actually describing the keywords that are present in the question. So colleges and universities, many reasons are already there. One of them is experience, career, knowledge. So these are the keywords surrounding which you're going to write. The question has actually asked you why people attend colleges and universities. You should give reasons for your answer. So first thing first, because the question here is actually you should give reasons for your answer using your own ideas and experience for people attending colleges and universities. First, we will start making few points and few ideas on which we can write and develop our essay. These are the few ideas I have prepared for you already. So you can include these things in your essay. When we are writing the essay, we'll also do something like this. We'll first find out what are the things we are going to write, and then we will develop a skeleton of our writing. We'll prepare what we are going to do in your introduction and what you're going to do in your body part. So this is going to be the body part. So we have written this thing already, and then we need to find out what I'm going to write in the conclusion. As you can see, I have already prepared a conclusion even before I have started writing. So this is what a good practice is. Before you even start to write, make sure that you know what you're going to write. You know what are the reasons you're going to give. You know what the introduction is going to be. That is the paraphrase the question here. And you have already prepared a conclusion even before you have finished writing your body description, so that it's going to be easy for you. When you start to write, all you focus is on choosing the proper vocabularies and using better grammar range with more accuracy. But don't waste your time on planning things anymore. You have planned everything ahead of time. One of the reasons can be colleges and universities have the authority to certify one's education. So it's not like old times. In old times, what used to happen that people used to get self-educated. I'm talking about 100, 200, 300 years ago. People used to have skills, and the market was quite narrow at that time. Population was less. So people would just know that that person is good in that particular skill and would go to him or hire him, something like that. But now in a competitive market like that, you need to prove that you have some skill. And to do that, you need to show certificates achieved from good universities and colleges. For example, suppose someone wants to join uh, uh, an office for constructions, and for that, the primary requirement is to be a civil engineer. Now, when you go to that office for interview, you obviously tell them that yeah, you have a certificate of civil engineering from that particular college or that particular university or that particular institution, and that shows that yes, you have the basic skills to start with. So we're gonna say something like that in our writing. The second point is to ensure proper education to build ideal citizens. Now, this is pretty interesting because a society requires educated citizens. so that it can make good decisions and have better future. So all these things can be done from a proper education point of view, and which can be received in an university or an institution or college. The third point that we can discuss is in education from universities are accepted by the society. So as you can see, once someone has a certificate from particular university or some education level already covered from university or college, then there is a certain level of expectation from that particular person that he will do such things, and also society accept that person's uh, as a credible person to follow and to listen to, something like that. Another thing that we can write is to, in colleges and universities, we learn values, we learn ideas to be a good human. So this can be one particular feature that we can describe in our essay. We can also write to get jobs and higher position in society. We go to colleges and universities. So someone with a better degree from a good university or a college has a higher chance of getting a highly paid or good respectable job in the society, which actually benefits the society, and uh, that that gives a lot back in the society. So we can discuss those things also. We can write further education on a specific field. So some people pursue university education just to hone their skills on a particular topic and learn more on that particular topic, so that they can develop uh, on that topic, and they can discover new things from that topic or that field. For example, you can say doctors. So doctors sometimes pursue a particular field even in the medical science, so that they can have their own expertise on that particular topic. Some doctors follow a um, skin disease, some doctors follow up heart disease, some doctors become specialist on neurosurgery, some doctors become specialist of eyes. So then they focus only on that specific field, and for that they go to colleges and universities and institutions. Another thing you can write is to develop and find oneself. So universities and colleges can be a very good place so to calm down and then find out your pros and cons, find out what you're actually learning and how is that gonna help you uh, get a broader picture of outside world, and you can develop through that. Now there can be many more other points that you can describe here. These are just the points that we can say and we can describe into our writing. So then based on this particular points, we have to develop the body part, the reason with explanations. Here we just have given the bullet point of the reasons. Explanations are the things that we need to give while we are writing. So if you want, you can include the explanations along with while you are planning these things. Along with these things, it's better to plan meticulously before you write. So this is going to be very helpful for you to maintain the flow of your writing. And once everything is done here, then we also prepare our conclusion. In the conclusion, we can write that experiencing diverse culture, preparation for the future career, improving job position, social status, cutting edge research, and curiosity about one's own existence. These are the things that we can include in the conclusion, that these are the main reasons based for which people go to universities or colleges. And then we can incorporate all these points along with the explanation that I provided to you in the writing. The only thing that remains is to paraphrase the question. Now, there are several ways we can paraphrase the question that we have. Uh, for example, the question here, let's go back to the question. And if we read the question here, it says people attend colleges and universities for many different reasons. And for example, new experience, career preparation, increased knowledge, etc. Why do you think people attend colleges and universities? Now we can very nicely paraphrase this particular question into our own answer for this thing. So we can say people preliminary enroll in a college or university to achieve the necessary education and degree they require to build a career. So that is one thing to start with. We are just paraphrasing the first sentence here. So we can say that people preliminary enroll in a college or university to achieve the necessary education and degree they require to build a career. Also, we can write at the second line that apart from the career, people seek higher degree or higher studies to gain knowledge, to enhance social status, and learn more about diverse cultures. So these are going to be the main points of our writing. So we just incorporate those things into the introduction. So the whole introduction will be something like this now, that people preliminary enroll in a college or university to achieve the necessary education and degree they require to build a career. Full stop. Then we write, apart from the career, people seek higher studies to gain knowledge, comma, to enhance social status and learn more about diverse cultures. So we can include all these things to our introduction. So once the introduction is done here, then we're going to write the body paragraph. And to do this, we're going to follow the points that we have discussed here. It's not necessary that you need to write all the points, but I'm just going to tell you how you can describe each point one after another. Obviously, you should write at least two body paragraphs instead of a single one. So write one single introduction paragraph, one single conclusion paragraph at the end, and in the middle you write 2 to 3 body paragraphs. Okay, so let us see how we can describe each point one by one. So we can start saying something like this: the current society and its educational structures are far from are a bit different or far different than they have been a century back. With a self-educated person could gain a good career, and uh, parents could arrange private tutors to ensure their children's education. So we are talking about like medieval times when only the richest people in the society were getting the proper education, and for that parents were actually providing them with private tutors, and they used to get the education. So things have changed right now. So this is to explain the first point now, that what was actually happening in old times, and then we're going to write what's going to happen here. So after writing what's happened in old time, we're going to write what's happening nowadays. So you can write something like this. We can start like, but in today's world, universities are the authority to declare a person to have the necessary education to be ready for the job. Then we can say people are going to universities because this is the most common way of getting the education. The sole purpose of a college or university is to ensure the proper theoretical and moral education to build the ideal citizens the country needs, and this is the system which is unquestionably accepted by the society. So now in this point, we're actually having a transition from our first point to our second point. So to do that, we do it very nicely by saying people are going to the universities because this is the most common way of getting the education. The sole purpose of a college or university is to ensure the proper theoretical and moral education to build the ideal citizens the country needs, and this is the system which is unquestionably accepted by the society. So now in this part we are actually saying how society is actually accepting the educated person educated by the college and the universities. Then we can describe and explain a little bit on this point, saying people who do not have the plan to use their certificate to get a job, either because they have other career plans or may be blessed with inherited future, or inherited fortune from their parents, something like that. People accept that most of them they go to a college or an university and then they take the education that is required for them. So this is one way to describe the second point. Now we are going to describe the third point, which says education from universities are accepted by the society, and the fourth point that learn values ideas to be a good human. So how can we explain the point? Remember, in the question it says you should give reasons for your answer using your own ideas and experiences. So obviously you just can't put an idea or a point and just leave it like that. You need to explain why you are actually writing this thing. So one way to describe this particular values and ideas thing could be to um, you can say, like, many go to the educational institutions to learn values and gather ideas, and education they require to be a good human. In fact, education is a borderline between a savage person and a good man. And this is another reason the society has adopted the idea of education for all. So now we are giving explanations why society actually encourages people to get educated, and we can incorporate that part into this particular idea while we're explaining it. So we can say education is a borderline between a savage person and a good man, and this is another reason the society has adopted the idea of education for all. So this is one way of explaining this third point, or this value point we have. Another one is to get job and higher position in society. Now, how can we explain that part? We can say, like, some people go to universities to get further education, to enhance their horizon, or to improve their job position and salary. Then we can say, like, others go to the colleges and universities to let the world know that they are educated. Funny this may seem, but many people simply consider the higher education as the status they require to get a higher position in society. So this is one way you can explain this particular point. Once everything is done, then you can write the conclusion. You don't need to put all the points once, because you will be in short with time. You have only 60 minutes to write both task 1 and task 2, and you need quite like 5-10 minutes and 15 minutes sometime to plan everything. And it doesn't take actually much time to write once you have planned, but it should take at least 10 to 15 minutes to write at least 250 words, because in your task 2 you have to write at least 250 words. But in a good task 2, a good essay, we usually find around uh, 290 to 310 words. Obviously, it's more than 250 words, and make sure that you write more than that. But doesn't mean that if you write more, you're going to get more numbers. It's totally with the quality of your writing, not the quantity. But obviously, you need to cross the threshold of 250 words. Okay, so as we have planned for your our conclusion, we can write the conclusion in this way. Like in conclusion, education, experiencing diverse cultures and customs, getting prepared for future career, improving job position, subject matter interest, and social status are the main reasons for people to attend colleges and universities. So now we have summarized the things that we have said in our body parts while we were actually explaining these points, and we just summarize all of that into our conclusion like that. Okay, now this is all of it about the task 2. Make sure when you're writing these things you have few minutes in your hand to revise what you have written. This will help you to find out the mistakes, especially spelling mistakes and sometimes grammar mistakes with preposition or maybe adjective or adverb, or problems with articles, problems with punctuations. So these are the common mistakes that usually IELTS candidates make during a test. And keep some time in your hand so that you can revise the things that you have written, and then you can correct that. That is why it is encouraged for paper-based candidates to write in pencils, not with pens, so that it will be easy for you to correct your answers easily. Just erase that part and rewrite it. Or if you're just typing it, then it's also quite easy. There's nothing to erase there. You can just type anything you want or erase anything you want. Now, one important thing, if you are sitting for the paper-based test, it is very important that you write your answers in the correct answer sheet. So there are two answer sheets, one for task 1 and another for task 2. Let me show you the answer script first. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, the red ones are the answer script for writing task 1, and the black outline one are the answer script for writing task 2. You have to write your candidate name, your candidate number, center number, your module. You have to shade this particular box, and you have to write the date. These are the things. Make sure that your writing task 1 answers in the red paper and the writing task 2 answers in the black paper, and use a pencil while you're writing. In case of computer delivered IELTS test, all you need to do is to type. So please make sure that you're typing properly. Your typing speed is quite fast. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem for you to write everything you want if you're not fast enough with your typing. Okay, now we are gonna discuss with another type of writing task 2 question. Yeah, so this is the question we have in front of us now. Should spend about 40 minutes for this task. Present a written argument to an educated reader with no specialist knowledge on the following topic. So you have to write an essay for an educated reader with no specialist knowledge on the topic that is given to you. And the question here says, to solve the ever increasing environmental hazards throughout the world, the best way is to increase the price of fuel. This is the topic that is given to you, and you have to write an essay and discuss this thing as in a manner that an educated reader with no specialist knowledge can understand it properly, the arguments you are going to develop. Okay, so this is the opinion, and you have to give your understanding what you can write on this particular thing. So they're actually asking that what is your opinion on the above assumption. So this is the assumption, and the assumption says to solve the ever increasing environmental hazard throughout the world, the best way is to increase the fuel price. Now you have to give your opinion on this particular assumption. You should write at least 250 words. Obviously, before we start to write, we need to make plans. We need to find out the keywords that are present in the question, and we need to develop our answer based on those keywords. Here, ever increasing environmental hazards, that's the most highlighted keyword. The best way is to increase the price of fuel. So this is an assumption that is already taken by some people. Is the best way is to increase the price of fuel to tackle the ever increasing environmental hazards. Now you need to give your opinion on that. Let's plan the answer first. Obviously, this particular approach or assumption, we can describe it as an over optimistic approach. That means whoever planned this one hasn't planned what could get wrong in this particular uh, assumption or approach. Obviously, there are other options, so we need to give those examples in our essay, and we need to show what are the problems with alternative options too. So these are the things we can write in our essay. So first of all, we need to describe that this particular solution that people have thought is quite over optimistic, and this not might not actually uh, complete the objective to start with. Then we can give the other options that are present in our hand and describe a little bits of some pros and cons about those options too. So what are the problems with this particular approach? So this is actually gonna deteriorate the situation of the four people. We need to give example to our ideas obviously here. And another thing that we can write here is does not solve actually anything. Car holders can afford fuel with higher price, so just increasing the fuel price is not gonna force the car holders not to buy fuel. They are gonna buy the fuel even with higher price if they have to. And hurt the industrial production, and we need to explain that how the industrial production will be hurt if we increase the fuel price. Now we have to make a skeleton or a roadmap of our writing. Obviously, you're going to write the introduction. We will rephrase the question here and say something about what you're going to write. Then we write few body paragraphs, one, maybe two, or maybe three, based on the ideas that we generate. And then in the conclusion, we give alternative solutions, or like eco-friendly options can be a good alternative solutions, and we have already decided all these things even before we start to write. Now we need to explain these things, and there are different ways we can explain these answers, as you can see. So I have written one particular answer for you. Let me share it with you and how we can actually do that. Okay, so we can like start like this, that it is true that skyrocketing the fuel price can make a nosedive in the use of vehicles in many cities, But the volume of energy we can utilize is not would soar the daily life expenses as well. So there are different versions you can write with the answer and with the question we have, and we can just change the ideas a little bit. These are just preliminary ideas. You can have your own ideas. You can say things on what can we say, how it can be a good idea also, because it will reduce the global warming and those effects maybe. And then you have to say how it can be successful, how can we, what are the things we can do to make it more successful, something like that. So we need to develop an explanation based on the answers we have. So we can say many things here. To start with, we can say protecting the environment only through the um, price hike sounds over optimistic. So now we are actually explaining the over optimistic approach of it, something like that. You can say things like that. Um, then you can say being the price of fuel at the peak, the fares get heavily increased for communication. With that, people's life would probably get more miserable, especially the poor people. And this practice will contribute to deteriorate the situation of poor people. So, in this way, we can actually explain how the situation of the poor people can deteriorate over the time. We can also say, like, um, there are millions of people in the world who go to their work by public transportation. So, if we increase the price of fuel here, uh, that will make the transportation cost higher, and the fare of these. So, once the fare of the public transportation is too much, then that can be a problem for people, for general population. Furthermore, we can say um, that fuel is not used to run cars only, so it is also used to run industries and machines. So increasing the price of fuel would hurt the industrial production as well. So in that way, uh, the price of products will increase, and that will be a dilemma for government because they won't be able to control the price of the daily commodities. The increased price of the fuel would only make problems for the poor people, while rich people who own cars, they can actually find a way to buy fuel. The main concern is actually pollution prevention. So we can say those things because in our conclusion, we're gonna actually end it with eco-friendly options. So we can actually state few things about the pollution and how things can be done here. Like there are other ways of uh, doing doing so rather than increasing the fuel price. Increasing fuel price would create some international crisis, and nations who produce fuel would get benefits from that, while the poor nations would struggle, obviously. So you can say, like, all things, after on considering everything, the obvious conclusion to be drawn here is the fuel is not an exceptional measures to reduce the environmental the cost of fuel. To increase the cost of fuel is not an not a very good idea to reduce the environmental hazard. Rather, it is a um, I can say rational one. There are many other solutions that you can apply or can be applied, like governments should prompt eco-friendly vehicles and public transportation by handing over them with extraordinary facilities, something like that. And government should try to make people aware of the problems with pollution also, so that people don't use too much of fuel, or go green energy, go cars with electric that run on electric power rather than gasoline. So these things can be done rather than just increasing the fuel price, which is not a very good idea to start with, something like that. So these are the explanations that you can give in your answer while writing the essay on this particular topic. But again, as you can see, the main uh, objective here is obviously to show why this increase of fuel price is not a very good idea, and then you have to give your opinion and your explanation just the way I explained it to you, and write the essay on these things. Make plans obviously before you start to write, and then you can divide your ideas and explanation into paragraphs. So if you have like uh, four ideas to explain, so make two body paragraphs there. One will contain two ideas and two explanations, and other will contain the other two. And if you have more ideas like five or six, then you can make maybe three paragraphs there, and you can write like two ideas and explanations in each paragraph, each body paragraph there, after introduction and before conclusion. But whatever you do, make sure that you fix your conclusion even before you start to write. That way you will know where you reach. What we have seen so far for many IELTS candidates is that they start very nicely, then but over time, because they are not planning properly, or they haven't planned it properly, they lose the flow of writing, and instead of writing in the correct direction, they stray away and and start to discuss irrelevant things, which are very hard to compile together and make a summary in the conclusion. So better you prepare your answers and ideas and your conclusion beforehand, and then you start to write, and by this way your writing will be focused, and you know which path you are actually taking to find out the answer. Okay, so now we're going to discuss another writing task too. Okay, now the question we have here is a very typical agree disagree type question for writing an essay. Here it is saying a university should accept male and female students equally in every subject. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the above statement? Write at least 250 words. So you have to agree whether you believe that university should accept male and female students equally in every subject. Obviously, before we start to write, we will make plans. So let's think about the agreements and why we can agree with this such idea. I have few points here to discuss. So the first one, we can say that according to human rights, both genders must be permitted to study on their favorite subject. So if someone has a particular interest in a particular subject, they should be given the chance to start regardless of their gender. In some countries, due to religious belief and social issues, male doctors are not allowed to become gynecologists, and this has increased the rate of mortality and morbidity in cases because we get less expertise in the field sometimes. We can also say males and females pay the same rate of taxes, so they must be given similar opportunities because there is no difference in paying the tax. Then why should be there difference in choosing the subject? We can also say that students will have a higher level of competition. So if there is a mix up with the male and female students, and there are more students in the institution, then the level of competition will also be higher. To achieve a higher encouragement from opposite gender, student will have a tougher competition, and then they compete with the same gender. So this is actually describing the thing. So we can say this can help both sexes to increase their communication skill, or when it comes to having closer relationship with the opposite sex. Definitely students of these schools will most probably have a less matrimonial problems in futures because they are actually used to have good communication with the opposite side of the gender. Okay, so then this will ensure women empowerment, and the society will benefit from this arrangement. Obviously, there are many societies in the world. There are many societies in this world where women are not given enough chance to get into a good subject. So this particular thinking of uh, specifying subjects based on the gender is not a very good idea for those societies. There should be gender equality in case of choosing the subject. And in this way, the women empowerment can be ensured and the society will be benefited from the arrangement. So we can also say another point that women in some society are underprivileged, and this arrangement will ensure their better education and thus contribution to the family, society, and country. Uh, if an equal number of male and female students get admitted in every subject offered in university, more areas of research, employment would be explored by women, and that would benefit the country as they would contribute more, obviously. We can also say chances of gender discrimination in the classroom would greatly reduce. And if fewer female hold the important sectors of a country, naturally women will feel uh, deprived, and this will lead them to compete with men. So these are the things that we can say regarding this particular thing and include in our essay writing. Okay, there are other things if you don't want to agree. So it doesn't mean that you have to agree with all the agree and disagree answers. You can also disagree with the things. And if you want to disagree, there are some very interesting points that you can discuss here. So first thing you can say that physically some areas of work are and related study fields are not appropriate for the women, and that's why they would naturally show a less interest in those areas of subject. For example, a female construction engineer working in outdoor may be frustrated by a heavily physical activity that are normally for male, because sometimes they have to carry very heavy machineries and items, and which can be very problematic sometimes because you need a lot of muscle power behind that and quite big physical work. So that is more stressful, and you need to be quite built up for that, physically built up for those kind of work sometimes. You can also say, sensational women are more fitted for some areas of study than men, like nursing is a good example in that case. So women in such subjects should get priority because women are by default more caring. So as you can see, even in many countries and many societies, the whole nursing sectors and even a big portion of the medical sector is actually dominated by women because they tend to have this particular compassion to that work. If we choose to get equal chance, and that can be costly, especially government was to have large budgets to for admitting equal number of males and females in the university. So these are the things that can be a problem for the government, and so on and so forth. So you can write actually in both sides of the argument. You can agree or you can disagree. I have given you some very nice points for both sides, and you can write the essay based on that. Obviously, we're gonna first plan how we are gonna write the essay, how many paragraphs we are gonna write. Introduction is usually quite straightforward. All you need to do is to actually describe, uh, first paraphrase the question and describe what you're going to write there, and then in the body part you can actually give the explanations for this all these points there, and then you can write the conclusion there. So we need to fix the conclusion what you're going to write based on whether we agree or disagree with the points like that. The one way to write the introduction would be like starting with something like this, that universities are the pillar of a society, and um, to build a sophisticated civilization in this modern era, we need uh, proper education in universities. Um, Therefore, the standard of education should be maintained at an optimum level in order to ensure the success of the universities in the society. Uh, that you can say many believe that university admission should be based on the ratio of males and females for each major to maintain the equilibrium among women and men. I strongly believe that taking up the students for each major be based on the academic grades as well as the talent, or you can say I strongly believe that students in each subject should get equal um, facility, um, and not based on their I mean based on their gender. They should get um, equal chance, something like that. You can say um, equal opportunity for both male and female students should be ensured based on how you're gonna think about it. So you can describe things in this way, that to begin with, if only men go ahead in education, research, history, art, and women stay at home, then no good can be done. History suggests that men are dominated in number in science, arts, engineering, creativity, and business sectors, but we cannot deny the contribution of Mother Teresa and Madame Curie, who have devoted their whole life to the betterment of the world. So now we are giving real life examples for our answers. You can say it is true that if the competition is arranged regardless of gender, more male students will be ahead of women. So we need to actually change this system. Universities should accept an equal number of students in this case. If fewer female hold the important sectors of a country, naturally, women will feel deprived, and this will lead them to compete with men. Something like this. For other points, you can say like it is a mother who is much more emotionally attached to the children and friendlier to the children than fathers. So they help the children in their studies. So the importance of female education at the higher level should get a priority consideration in this single issue. So because they can be a good tutor for early childhood education, and different sectors have shown that, and in different societies we have seen that the early childhood education is basically dominated by the female genders. So they should get enough higher studies in universities so they can build a good nation, something like that. Uh, you can write a simple conclusion in this regard if you are agreeing with that. So you can write in conclusion, universities should accept same number of students from both genders and give an equal opportunity at every level. But if you are thinking to write against it, in that case you can write um, that in conclusion, I shall not agree to the point that admission should be strictly based on the same number of men and women rather than grades or interest, or when it comes to global education, um, on training on each major, I insist the implementation of such practice to select areas across the globe. So you can say things like that in your conclusion if you're disagreeing with the statement that is given. Regardless whether you agree or disagree, you have to give some explanations for the answers that you have, and you should give uh, some examples, if possible, some real life examples from the answers for your answer in the essay. That will make things more practical, and the examiner will understand that yes, you actually can express your ideas in a better way. So these are the things you should maintain in your answer while answering the essays. If you have any question, you can ask now. Okay. So if you have no question, in that case, I'm going to briefly describe the whole writing test for you, starting from the beginning and how things are going to mark, and what are the things the examiners will be looking for. So obviously the writing test is for 60 minutes, and you have to write a report in your task one and for academic module, and you have to write a letter in your task one for general training module. For both modules, you have to write an essay in your task two. So there are only two tasks, task 1 and task 2. In task 1, you have to write over 150 words. In task 2, you have to write over 250 words. She says spend around 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2. Obviously, you should spend more time on task 2 because it is worth more marks. Okay, so in case of writing task 1, you will usually find a graph or a picture or map or diagram or a chart or a table, something like that, to write a report. These are some examples of that. You might find a line graph or maybe a pie chart or a diagram that describes the process, or maybe maps. It can be bar chart or pie chart. It can be tables also, or it can be a combination of any of this. And you might receive also multiple um, items together, suppose multiple bar charts or multiple pie charts, or maybe a pie chart with a table, or maybe a line graph with a bar chart. So there can be endless combination of questions that can be made. In task 1 general training, however, you have to write a letter. So usually the letters can be described into three different categories: formal, semi-formal, or informal letters. So there are some examples for that. The category actually depends on to whom you're writing and why you're writing the letter. So suppose you're writing a letter to your boss for advance vacation. So this falls into the category of a formal letter, because as your boss the relation is quite formal, and then the reason you're writing the letter is quite official, so it's a formal letter. An informal letter will be something like you're writing a letter to your friend and you're planning to make a trip. So this is a personal reason you're writing the letter, and you're writing to your friend. So this is an informal type of letter. Semi-formal is something in between of formal and informal letter. For example, you're writing a letter to your neighbor not to make noise after 10 p.m. at night, something like that. So now this is something that falls between a formal letter and an informal letter. We call it a semi-formal letter. So in case of formal letter, we have to make sure that our tone of writing is quite formal. In case of informal letters, we will make things as realistic as possible, and we would like to write things in a very casual manner because it's an informal letter. In semi-formal letter, the tone will be something in between of a formal and an informal tone. The task 2, which is actually writing an essay, can have different types of question, but it will have only one question, and it can be opinion type, it can be a discussion, it can be an essay to write reasons, it can be an essay on advantages or disadvantages. So you might be asked on a topic that what are the advantages or disadvantages of that topic. For reason, like we just practiced one, that what are the reasons people go to universities and colleges. So that is a typical example for a reason type essay. For like opinion type, the fuel one was an opinion type essay where you have been given an idea and you have been asked to give your own opinion on that, whether it is a good idea to increase the price of fuel to control environmental hazards, something like that. You might be asked to give discussion in your essay. So they might just give you a topic and you might have to discuss the whole topic there. There can be other type of essays like problem and solution type of essays. So in this part you will be asked a question or a topic, and then you would have to give the problem with that thing and you have to give a solution to that thing. For example, we can change the question in our fuel type question there, or essay there, that what are the problems of increasing the fuel price and what is the proper solution for controlling the environmental hazard, something like that. We can also give cause and effect uh, type essays where you have to give the causes of a particular thing, and you also have to give uh, solutions to that thing. One typical example can be global warming here. So for like, what are the causes of global warming and what are the effects of global warming? So now you have to describe the thing like why global warming happens, and then you have to describe what are the effects of global warming, something like that. And then you might get very direct question where you will be asked questions and you just have to give uh, answers that what do you think about that. So these are the very different type of task two question that you might face in your test. So the writing test will be marked, the answer will be marked based on these four things mainly. The first one is called task achievement or task response. In task one we call it task achievement, in task we call it task response. And the second one is coherence and cohesion, in short we call it CC. Then a lexical resource, this is mainly grammar and vocab. This is mainly vocabulary and phrases. And the last one is grammar range and accuracy, GRA. So here you have to show different grammar structures that you can use. So let's discuss these four things that are present in the writing test. So in writing, in task achievement or task response, the examiners will actually be looking for that whether you have addressed all the parts of the task or not. So that is to address all the keywords that are present in the question and whether you are able to answer the question according to it. Suppose the question has asked you something and you have written something totally different. So that is actually failing in this particular task. So you have to make sure that you answer according to the question. In coherence and cohesion, you have to actually maintain the structure and flow of your writing and with a very good storytelling property in your writing. So when you're doing that, the best way to ensure this thing is to plan ahead of your writing. So once you have planned things, then you can actually make sure that your storytelling is quite good. If you start planning while you are writing, then you will be all over the writing, and you will writing something else in the next paragraph and describing totally something different maybe in the previous paragraph because nothing is planned ahead of time. So obviously plan before you write and make sure that you have a very good structure of the writing. For example, suppose you have three main ideas based on which you're going to explain your answer. So you can start the first one is like the firstly, this is this and that, the first idea. Then the second one in the second paragraph may be the secondly, we can say that like this. And third one in the third paragraph saying last but not the least is this idea, something like that. So this is the way you can structure your writing in a better way. Lexical resource is actually that covers the vocabulary and phrases. So you need to use appropriate vocabularies and more uncommon phrases and good idioms in your writing. The more you can do that, the better your scores will be. You have to make sure that you're using the appropriate vocabulary. Sometimes we just use synonyms instead of the word because that sometimes makes, I mean, sounds good, but you need to understand the context of the writing, and based on that context, you have to choose your vocabulary because a vocabulary in a different context can mean totally different things. The last one is the grammar range and accuracy, and is actually the most important one because most of the candidates actually don't understand what and how they should write. So this covers the sentence structures and the use of grammar. You need to show the examiner in your writing that you know different structures of sentence structures and grammar. In many different ways you can make not only simple sentences but also complex large compound sentences, different structures to start with, and you can do this that as accurately as possible. If you can do that, then you will get a good mark in your grammar range and accuracy. A candidate who is only able to write in simple sentences will not receive more than 5 in this section. So suppose a candidate who is getting 8 in this particular section, that mean that that candidate is not only compatible to write simple sentences, but also can write complex sentences and large sentence structures, regardless of the situation being familiar or not familiar. Uh, and he can write it accurately with almost negligible errors in his writing. So these are the most important things in your writing test. Make sure that you cover all these things and you tick all the boxes. If you can do that, you will get a good score in your writing. All these scores will be average, and obviously write more in your task 2 than task 1. Spend more time on your task 2 because it's worth more marks. If spelling is important, in case of paper-based candidates, clear handwriting is important. Unclear answers uh, will actually lose marks because it will be like misspelling, something like that. If you are actually if the answers are not actually properly readable. So, and also make sure, yes, obviously spellings are important. So make sure you use the correct spelling. So once all the boxes are ticked, I hope that you will get a very good score in your writing test. So best of luck. Keep practicing with the exercise you have and try to think on the topics that we discussed today, and hope to see you in our next class. Thank you very much.